Hello, everyone. I'm Sana Carpelati, your quest for self-healing. Um, I wanted to talk with you today about the stress of healing. And I want you to know a couple of things. Number one is that you can heal anything. That is a reminder. And the other thing is that you are not alone if you have been struggling with trying to heal or whatever that means for you. So today we're going to talk about some of these stresses and a few things that can be helpful to you. So so I started about 25 years ago kind of exploring what this whole notion of healing was, because when I was in graduate school and other trainings early in my career, there really never was, the word healing was not a vernacular of that time. So we talked about pathology and symptom reduction and trying to understand, how to reduce symptoms in folks. So what I discovered, or what I decided to do, I started asking people about healing, because I grew up in an era where honestly the only healer I knew was Jesus, and he really wasn't talking about the things that I was afflicted with. I had complex traumas that were impacting my body, my life, my psyche, my relationships, and I was curious about how other people were dealing with the stress that they were experiencing in their lives. So I started engaging conversations with people, everyone from doctors to psychologists, even the heating and air guy who still comes here, and we have discussions about healing and so forth. So I've talked with clients and friends and family about what is it that you do to help yourself. So everybody talked about traditional methods of self-help, and so over the years, about 5 years ago, I started asking my clients, what have you done up until now to help you to resolve this issue? So the number one thing, and we'll talk about this just briefly in a little bit because I'm certainly not downing it, but the first thing, 88% of my clients in the last 5 years have been to therapy. The second, or psychologist or pastoral counseling or something of that nature. Okay, the second was medications. They tried medications, some as many as 4 or 5. And the third was that they would ignore the problem, hoping that it would go away. So there's a hopeful optimism about whatever it is that we try to do. And reading self-help books was, one of the top 5 as well. My very first self-help book was Why Do I Think I'm Nothing Without a Man? I actually found it on my bookshelf as I was cleaning things out a couple of months ago and enjoyed a few laughs. So along with this hopeful optimism, one of the things that I noticed is that people had a lot of anguish and a lot of sense of failure because they weren't getting better in the way that they anticipated. And did they even know what that meant for them? So it seemed easier to take on another burden. And that was and still is, because I still hear it today in my work. And that is to stress about healing, which kind of adds a whole nother layer over the issue, and this actually is distracting from the symptoms and the struggles that we have. So the things that happen, I have a list of questions here. People begin to personalize why they're not getting better. For example, what's wrong with me? Okay, I'm so frustrated. I was just about ready to give up. or I feel so hopeless and ashamed of my failures, especially because I thought that therapy could help me. So I said, well, have you gone back to the therapist? Because I like to do a lot of follow-up work to know if, number one, if I'm the right person, number two, if what I'm doing is helping and has been worthwhile. And like me, because I had seen 7 or 8 therapists, when I was a young adult and I wasn't getting better, I just stopped going. I never told them that this wasn't working for me. Yeah, sure, I would glean an insight here and there, but what we'll talk about in a few minutes is that that's not where our lives reside. It's all in the subconscious mind, and that is the primary force and driver of how we live our lives. So some people were questioning, what does healing really mean? Okay, is it too late for me? I've been messed up for so many years. How can I tell if I'm really healed? So I started to get really interested in this whole idea of, number one, why do we stress about healing? So here's a couple of things that I had to realize personally myself, and I also share with my clients as is appropriate. So, well, first of all, I'm writing a kind of a guidebook for my retreats from hurt to healed. We have one in Pittsburgh in November and one in Las Vegas in October, and Pittsburgh has 1 or 2 seats left, and Las Vegas has a couple more. So the first thing that I did in the last, say 6 months or so, I started to explore and to find out what is the definition of healing. And I can tell you that there is no definition of healing. So I didn't know exactly what that meant and what that translated into, because I think it adds to the confusion, because if I don't know personally, okay, and then I'm seeing someone who maybe is not clear about what healing means for them. So what happens is, again, in the medical profession, for example, they don't even use that word, okay, and they talk about wound healing. That's how they refer to it. I scoured psychiatric, psychology websites, and I found articles that reference the word healing, but not so much about the actual process of healing. So the more that I researched, I found that there was all this conflict. Is it the moment that we decide we need healing? Is it the process? Is it what we attain in terms of the outcomes of the healing? Well, I have a little bit of a different perspective on that, which I'll share later. So there really isn't a clear definition, and that is something worthwhile to ask if you have or decide that you want to pursue transformation or change in your life. So it becomes kind of your problem, the issue, and also this baggage that we carry. It gets shaped through time. And oftentimes, if you're like me, I was told about so many of the traumas I experienced that you just have to live with that. And in my head, I'm thinking I have to live like this with the pain and the struggles that I was experiencing. And so we get all of these messages from our culture and our family that we internalize and we associate with whether or not we can actually get better. So a couple of the other reasons why we stress is because we aren't prepared for adversity, and no one teaches us about how to manage ourselves after something happens in our lives. We basically hear things like, oh, you'll be okay, or just suck it up, or here, have a beer. So all of these kind of more unhealthy types of behaviors, but we don't realize because if you have an experience here, that we can kind of go dormant with it for a while until it gets triggered at a later date. So the other issue is we know our problems really well. I mean, I can rattle off, lots of things that are bothersome, but we're not so good with understanding or knowing how to be well. How do you do that? So if most of your life is kind of you feel like you're struggling and you catch a glimpse of well-being, well, there's ways to begin expanding well-being and really make it a part of your core so that it becomes literally a trait, a way that you live your life. So the other question that I would encourage you to ask yourself is, well, what is healing for you? What is that about? We don't realize. I mean, it sounds pretty glamorous, I want to heal this problem. And we set out to indeed do that. But we don't realize that, we hear about timing and readiness, and there is a truth to that, because we're not always ready to kind of put in perspective all the beliefs and our contribution to and what happened in our lives. It almost is like this collision of an implosion that happens. What do you believe, not only about well-being, but about healing and about this issue? Because that in and of itself can create kind of a rocky journey. So oftentimes, we think about it as being this process that goes straight up, but it's really not that way, because some things we're just not ready for. And I know that in the past, there have, when I have gone through my own healings and so forth, I mean, I've had healing crises where there was too much overload that I really wasn't ready to handle. So I'm really kind of cautious in terms of making sure that my client can not only hold the issue and the healing at the same time. So in recent years, we've also discovered that talking isn't enough often with problems. And it's, a lot of us that do more transformational work, of course we have to talk, but when you use the mind-body system and approach the problem from a holistic viewpoint, then it allows us to enter into the problem in lots of different ways. Because as Bruce Lipton has discovered, is our lives are driven by the subconscious mind. And that's where your life resides, as well as the life of your ancestors. So, and see, talk therapy is about behavioral changes, which is kind of outside of you, as well as working with the cortex, where we can talk a lot about our problems, but we're not going into the subconscious mind, where there can be a lot of different issues or life experiences. So another issue too is fear about not only facing the symptoms and letting go of them or releasing them, but also we can also have the wrong approach, the wrong person helping us. An example is when I got pregnant with my daughter, I was triggered by my mother's death. She died when I was a child, a couple days after my little brother was born. So in my mind, I equated being pregnant and delivery was dying. So when I got pregnant, I was really triggered and went into a pretty major depression at that point. So I went to see this therapist, and she was a PhD, and I was sobbing crocodile tears. Okay. So what happened was she leaned in and she says, "Honey, I'll be the grandmother of your baby." And I didn't know how to respond to that. And I immediately stopped because I was kind of in a stunned situation. And I said, "Well, no, thank you. I mean, my child has a grandmother, and, we'll take care of it." So I didn't know if that was kind of like a shock therapy approach. But then she called me and was kind of asking if she could be helpful. And I said, "I don't think so." She had clearly crossed over boundaries. So what you have to get a sense for if you're in the right environment that can assist you. And also readiness, as I said earlier, is important. Facing a truth can be extremely powerful as well as disabling. But the key is you want to have enough internal strength and resource so that whatever the healing means for you, because I believe that every situation that we are confronted with is an opportunity for us to heal and to evolve ourselves. So a couple of things. The science does tell us that we can heal anything, because everything that happens emotionally in your psyche and your thoughts actually impacts our bodies down to a cellular level. And that has been researched, and it's really clear. And the other thing is, we have all read about people who have survived against all odds, things that have happened in their lives, who've gotten better, who should not be alive today. So people can thrive even in the most difficult adversity situation. So some of the things that have been researched about people who do heal is that they stay with it. They get clear. Even if something doesn't work, it's not personalized until they keep going, until they find whatever the process. It doesn't mean you have to have professional work, whatever it is, so that you can begin to expand well-being in your life. And then the other piece is determination. I remember when this doctor, I was about 28, my body collapsed. I was so ill. He said, "You are going to be sick. You're going to lose a kidney, and you're going to be sick for the rest of your life." And a part of me said, "No, I'm not." And I said that to him, and he looked at me like I was bizarre. And I honestly don't know where that voice came from, but there was a part of me that said, "No, I don't accept that, and I'm making the changes," and which I indeed did. So drawing strength from hardship and adversity can give us that drive and that energy to stay the course until we find the right person, the right approach, the process that can help us with healing. I wanted to just put a couple of things. I put a couple things here on the board about how the importance. I hope you can just adjust that there. So the first piece about healing is that you really want to make time for yourself. You want to say that this is important enough for me that I'm going to invest not only my time, if it happens to be money, or to find your tribe or whatever it is that's going to work for you. It's easy to just continue to ignore it, but what you might realize that happens is that we keep getting kind of louder and louder messages because our life isn't working in the way that we want, in order to tell us, hey, you need to take a look at this. Because if you do, then you are going to gain like wisdom, finding your energy back. I've had clients who have found their soulmates, or have, quit drinking or stopped biting their nails. And that wasn't a part of the work that we did. But when the healing occurs, there's an expansion in our lives that we can't really predict in terms of what it's going to attract for us. So the other piece here is to know yourself. As you look back on your life, you want to take a look at, when did your life start changing? When was life good? And I'm talking about core level well-being and having those traits operative in your life. So, and then when did you notice like a downfall? Or like a spiral or a shift or a change where something happened here, but then maybe you were okay for a while, but then you started to notice change or withdrawing from your life or constricting in some way. So getting to know yourself and what's important to you. And also, as I said earlier, what is healing? What would your life be like without this issue? What do you risk? What do you, what is it that you don't want to know about this situation that could prevent you from healing or from, living to your potential? The other piece is to be well now. So, it's often we think we need to wait until we are totally and completely healed in order to be well. Well, I like to start that off really quickly, because if you have this much well-being in your day, okay, you can easily begin expanding that in lots of different ways. And I kind of coined this 1,000 healings, and I'm actually naming my guidebook that, I think, but it'll be a description in there. And basically what that is that if you take advantage and are attentive to what is happening around you, you'd be surprised. I mean, we have all had someone who shared an insight or said something to us, or we get we have a word, we hear a word, or we have a sensation or an intuition that can really change our lives very quickly. Because I know, if you're like me, I mean, there have been some times when I said, okay, I'm done. I'm not ever doing this again, or I'm not going there, or I'm not involving that individual, or whatever it is. So we can change as quickly as we want. But the issue is sometimes we reach for miracles and we miss all of these little opportunities to kind of begin to expand well-being in our lives. Because well-being can be just as fleeting as stress in our lives. And so you want to grab onto the things that you want to hold on. Like, for example, if you notice that you really enjoying the warm sun on your face. Well, if you take 10 seconds to do that, and you just notice and allow yourself to take in the sun, and you allow that vibration to increase, your energy goes up. See, then if you hold it for about 10, 15 seconds, see, then you can carry it into your life, okay, rather than, like we usually do, which, oh, this is great, it's a warm day, and we just kind of walk off and get busy with other things. So the other piece is to be kind and patient with yourself, because healing is a journey, and it can be a rocky climb. But if you know that in advance, it can help you, and there are tools that you can do along the way to kind of begin to add comfort into your life, such as breath work, or yoga has been found, the research, to be better than Prozac. And you can Google that online. So if you set out on this healing journey just know that it's not just this kind of one and done sort of approach. I always tell my clients that some things are going to happen and open up in a way that is organic and happen naturally, like I said a few minutes ago, but some things you have to shape along the way. And you don't always know. See, we can get really comfortable in our pain and our suffering for really good reason. And we don't always know what healing is going to bring to us. And that's a part, it's like Christmas morning, I think, because you see these wrapped gifts and you don't know what piece of yourself or what part of you is in the gift that you'll be opening up for yourself. So if you all have any questions, I'm really grateful to see Carol and Pam and Sharon, Colleen, Patty and Rob. Hi, thank you. If you all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And I do want to share, I mean, if you want to look at my website, it's sanacarpellotti.com, and I have a Facebook page, Your Quest for Self-Healing, where I try to post as often as I can. And I'm also doing a retreat in Las Vegas as well as in Pittsburgh. I have 2 seats left in Pittsburgh in November, and we're going to be taking a look at all of this stuff and really clearing, old hurts, struggles, and also expanding well-being. And my goal is that everybody who leaves, they'll have like tools, so that whatever happens, when you notice certain changes within yourself, you're going to know exactly what to do. So I want to thank you all so much for stopping by, and any comments that you have, feel free to leave them below the video. And if you are so inclined, please share this with your friends and family. So thank you all so much. And thank you, Pam, for saying that. Love you all. Bye-bye. Have a good day.